This is the second video in my skip count series. Now we're going to skip count by 5, and we're going to do the same 3 things: hundreds chart, number chart, and circle. And so let's get started. When we skip count by 5s, it's going to look similar. We're coloring in every 5th number this time though, instead of every 10th number. So we're going to skip to 5, and then when we skip 5 more, we end up at 10. Skip 5 more, we end up at 15. Skip 5 more, we end up at 20. So when you get your whole chart colored in, then you're going to have everything that ends in 5 and everything that ends in 0 on your chart is going to be colored in. That's pretty easy, again, to understand, because you only have to remember that you're going to say numbers that end in 5 and numbers that end in 0. So you only have to remember 2 steps to the pattern. Most kids are pretty good at skip counting by 5s, and so I think this is going to be a good way for you to really start to understand, especially the circle and the pattern chart. So let's move on to the pattern chart. And I've already got it filled in. When you skip count by 5s, like we just said, you have 2 numbers to remember, 5 and 10. So you're going to be saying everything that ends in 5 here and everything that ends in 10 here. And you're going to have 2 rows, excuse me, just like you have 2 columns colored in on your hundreds chart. We're just turning one vertical, one horizontally. So we go 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60, 65, 70, 75, 80, 85, 90, 95, 100. This chart is going to be really helpful for kids who need to move, because you're actually moving your finger, you're touching the number, you're pointing to it, and that's going to help you remember where you are in the pattern. It's also going to help you really remember what those numbers look like and the pattern, because it's right there in front of you the whole time. And it's a good way for kids, especially when we're doing our timed skip counting. It's a great way for kids to memorize. If they're not great at memorizing, this is a good way to start that, because you have it in front of you to say, and then when you get to 100, you just go back to the beginning and start all over. And that's just, it's going to make them be fast. It's going to make them, with the repetition of it over and over and over, it's going to make them eventually not even need this, because they will start to memorize the pattern even if they're not great at memorizing it on their own. The circle chart on the 5s is a little bit cooler. This time you start at 0 and you're going to skip all the way to 5 on your number line or on your circle. So we're going to skip to 5, and then skip 5 more is going to bring us back to 10. So for your 5s, this is your pattern. And for those kids that need to move, that need to touch it, that are very tactile and need some of that hands-on this is not really concrete stuff, but kind of semi-concrete stuff, this is a great thing for them to use. So you start at 0, trace your finger down to 5, back up to 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50. And so you get that idea when you're tracing your finger. I don't ever say any of these other numbers. All I ever say is something that ends in 0 and something that ends in 5. And that helps solidify that pattern too. It also helps if you don't really focus well, then this helps you remember what is going to come next. 0, 5, 10. Now it's going to be something that ends in 5 after 10. 15. Okay, something that ends in 0 after 15 is 20. The next thing I come to with a 5 is 25. 30. So it really, really hits that pattern.